Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. Frank here, the founder of Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching Programs. And in today's brief video, I want to take some time and talk about some warning signs that I wish I would have seen throughout the course of my weed smoking journey. I really think weed, the plant, was trying to warn me that, hey, this is something that was once fun and now it's turning more into an addiction. And I want you to keep one thing in mind throughout the course of this video. Just because something works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I think this conversation is particularly important to have today because we have so many influencers, celebrities, and podcast hosts who are just glamorizing weed and glorifying weed. And I do think we need to take a second and say, hey, just because it's working for you doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. So here's a video for you guys that it's not working for. My name's Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching Programs, where we help people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like today's video. So I titled this video, I've spent over $1 million or close to $1 million on weed, and I want to explain what I mean by that. It's not exactly true, but it could have been, and here's why. So let's say you spend on average $98 a week on weed. I was probably spending between weed, alcohol, and nicotine closer to $150 a week, to be honest. Now, let's say it was $98 though. If you took that $98 a week, that would be $420 a month. And if you invested $420 a month, $420 a month, into a conservative stock index fund retirement account, you're looking at getting about 7% on your return on investment, on your ROI. Over the course of 30 years, that $420 a month would be worth upwards of $1 million, okay? When we buy weed, when we have an addiction and we have financial trouble, we have money problems, a large reason that develops is because we're making our money and then we're giving it to the plug. We're giving it to the weed dispensary. We're giving it to the bar. We're giving it to the gas station to buy more nicotine. Your money isn't working for you. If anything, your money is actually working against you. And this is one of the biggest red flags that I think I should have noticed early on. I was 27 years old, living at home, sleeping on a twin mattress, and I couldn't even come up with enough money to get rent, yet I was making enough money to comfortably afford $150 a week on weed, alcohol, nicotine, and whatever else may be. How could you invest your money to make more money? And I want to add on that a little bit. I've now invested my money into new camera equipment, new microphone equipment. YouTube pays me an okay amount each month right now to make videos on ad revenue. There's people that work with our Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching offices. That makes me money. But I wouldn't have these things if I didn't start respecting how I used my money and how I invested my money. Okay, so money was probably the first biggest red flag that I should have noticed. Red flag number 2 would have been when we turned from a hobby into an obsession. So I was literally obsessed with weed. What type of one hitter am I going to get? What type of bong am I going to get? What type of PAX unit am I going to get? What type of volcano vaporizer? What's the newest and latest cart? What's the latest craze on weed? What's the latest trend on weed? I was always obsessing over weed, not only what was available to me on the market through the smoke shops, but also the aspect of, here I am getting home from work, getting home from school after a long day, and all I want to do is smoke. I don't want to talk to my family. I don't want to talk to my girlfriend. Hell, sometimes I'd smoke so much I wouldn't even accomplish watching TV. I was obsessed with weed. I was obsessed with it. And I think for those of you guys watching this who can kind of relate to that, that's one of your greatest gifts, the ability to maintain an obsession. We just got to get you obsessed with something that's going to benefit you versus something that's going to destroy you. That was red flag number 2, when weed turned from a hobby to an obsession. It truly became a lifestyle. And when you looked at my life, I was no Joe Rogan. I wasn't worth $300 million running a multi-million-dollar podcast. I was sitting at home passing out 15 minutes into a half-hour Netflix show, as a grown adult. So, that's a problem. Reason number 3, and something I wish I would have paid more attention to, was my hygiene. Believe it or not, I'd get home some nights, I'd eat a really crappy dinner. I didn't have time or even an urge to want to prepare healthy food, let alone even consider going to exercise. And then what would happen? I'd get really high. I'd sometimes fall asleep in the clothes that I wore that day without even brushing my teeth or even taking a shower. I would just pass out in bed. And my hygiene and my physical appearance was really starting to slip, as was my general level of cleanliness. My room was always a disaster. My car was always a disaster. My life was cluttered and my life was messy, and it was starting to physically show on me. I know not everyone who smokes weed is like that. I understand there are people who are insanely productive on weed and very cleansly. This isn't a stereotype. This is what happens when someone starts to develop an active addiction, whether it's to weed, alcohol, cocaine, Adderall. It doesn't matter what you're getting addicted to. Hygiene tends to suffer, and my hygiene was definitely suffering. Social skills. This was another big red flag for me. I'm someone who depends on and relies on my social skills in order to network, in order to make a living, in order to make an income, in order to feel good about myself. I love human interaction. That's the type of person I am. But weed was destroying my social skills. I was starting to develop generalized anxiety. I was starting to get panic attacks, something I had never had before in my life. And the worst part of it was I thought the weed was helping me. I thought the weed was making it better, and it was making it 1,000 times worse. And I was just too addicted and too blinded to acknowledge that. And it's not totally my fault, because I was constantly bombarded by society and influencers and people telling me, oh, it's good for you. Oh, it helps anxiety. Oh, it's a social thing to do. This is a good thing for you. It might have been for them, but that doesn't mean it was for me. What applies to one doesn't apply to everyone. The next major area that I should have paid more attention to was my physical health and my mental health. I kind of touched on my mental health. I was developing more anxiety, certainly was becoming a lot more depressed. That here I was, 27 years old, with no money, with declining social skills, unable to pick myself up, unable to land on my feet day in and day out. And I was getting depressed, realizing here I am falling short of my goals. Here I am falling short on my relationships. Here I am falling short on my finances. No matter how hard I tried when I was addicted to weed, I was always coming up short in life. And that was creating some major depression and some major mental health issues along the course of my weed smoking journey. And then, of course, my physical health. I was always someone who was into the gym, someone who was into eating really healthy, and those things just went by the wayside. I was no longer eating foods for health purposes. I was just eating whatever tasted good and whatever gave me some source of immediate satisfaction. Where can I get an immediate gratification? Where can I get some immediate satisfaction? And then when I had even the slightest challenge or the slightest amount of opposition or stress, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I would just go home and I'd smoke. I'd get high to avoid it. And that was just making me more depressed and more anxious in reality. These are some of the major things, guys, that I wish I would have paid more attention to. And when I say it almost cost me $1 million, it truly did. Confident between the businesses that I have and between the things that I'm doing in my life that it will generate millions of dollars. I'm certain of that. I'm positive of that. I'm positive that if I stay focused on my finances and stay focused on my healthy relationships, that I'm going to hit all these really, really positive goals that I have set for myself. Of course, I could get hit by a Mack truck tomorrow and then, well, F it. There's nothing you can do. And I know it's no different for you guys. You just have to start to acknowledge, hey, if you haven't already, maybe this is a problem, and maybe it's time I put down the phone, and maybe it's time I realize that I'm not that influencer. I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not Snoop Dogg. I'm not all these people. I am me. And right now, this is my situation, and I'm in the situation I'm in because of the choices that I'm making for myself. And maybe today's the day you start to take some more accountability and you reach out for help and you start to take that first step towards your sobriety and recovery process. It's a scary one, but I'm telling you guys, it's totally worth it. Next thing you can do is follow me into the video that's popping up here called Respecting Weed. This is about why I chose to quit smoking weed out of respect. That's why I did it. I'll see you guys there.